Finally, the useless old man is leaving.
Susan, the manager, laughs as she says this. She intends to fire me from the company by using her status as the CEO's daughter. She also exerted pressure on my former co-workers, who departed before me. I just looked and was about to walk away because I couldn't think of anything to say in response, but then someone showed up. Susan and the other staff members began to shake at the sight of him.
I was that person.
I'm 48 years old and go by Michael Reed. I am the manager of Reed's Inn, a historic inn located in St. Augustine, one of Florida's oldest vacation regions. Due to the support of our devoted patrons, our inn has remained a historic hotel with a reputation for authenticity for 8 decades. We have made the decision to do a significant upgrade because of the deteriorating facilities. It takes roughly 6 months to complete the building. To be honest, it was not at all possible for a small family run inn like Reed's Inn to close for 6 months in order to construct. This time, though, we were able to secure funding for the whole cost of construction by teaming forces with the Greater New York Hotel Group, a significant participant in the market. Over the past 10 years, the Greater New York Hotel Group has prospered by buying and remodeling failing traditional hotels and inns along with their employees before reopening them. Preserving the spirit of traditional American hotels and inns is the foundation of their goal. That our own Reed's Inn is deemed deserving of such preservation is a great honor. We weren't really having financial difficulties, but I had been putting off any significant repairs, so the Greater New York Hotel Group's offer was greatly appreciated. It appears that we will be able to modernize our systems and equipment and offer our staff a little salary increase, which should greatly facilitate their job. Most importantly, they should view the change to a new setting as a chance to start over. The upgrades that made our facilities more accessible delighted our regular clients, many of whom are older. Then, 6 months later, Reed's Inn was rebranded as Greater Ocean Resort, a new kind of lodging with previously unattainable features including a spa and beauty salon. The personnel more than doubled as a result of the facility's growth, and the former Reed's Inn employees rushed to get ready for the reopening by learning a new manual from scratch. Their efforts paid off, as both new and returning consumers praised the response, which was better than anticipated.
But some co-workers also made the decision to quit.
Officially, I'm the manager of Reed's Inn, a position held and named by the Reed family, but in reality, I'm an employee under the Greater New York Hotel Group. There's a person dispatched from headquarters with the title of operations manager, and I have to consult with her about everything I do. And this operations manager, Susan, is the 23-year-old daughter of the CEO of the Greater New York Hotel Group. She graduated from a famous university last year and, of course, has no experience in hotel management. But being a relative of the CEO, she's a particularly delicate person to deal with. We have to follow her direction and report everything that happens in the operation to her. If there's something she's not informed about, she immediately becomes moody and gathers the employees to scold them. Especially, she's harsh on the employees who have been with Reed's Inn since before the renovation. The first to clash with Susan was my mother, the landlady. The landlady tried to teach the new employees the ways of the hotel staff, but Susan started saying that the very existence of hotel staff was outdated. Maid uniform is just old-fashioned restraint. It takes up too much time and is hard to move in. From now on, everyone will wear these shirts and skirts I've chosen, she said, handing out new uniforms to all the hotel staff. This led to most of the hotel staff quitting because the special allowance they received for wearing a maid uniform was gone. Moreover, wearing a maid uniform was a matter of pride for a historical hotel staff, as important as a lawyer's badge. Yet the landlady continued to wear her maid uniform daily, until one day she broke down and announced she was quitting. After all, nearing 80, she was feeling the limits of her physical strength. Since her husband passed away, her days of seclusion had increased.
I couldn't stop my mom from leaving the inn.
After getting rid of the bothersome landlady, Susan became even stricter with us.
If you don't like what I said, you're free to leave. Naturally, being talked down to like that would upset anyone.
I'll listen to what you say, Manager Michael, but I don't want to follow that woman's orders.
I was told this by former colleagues numerous times.
In response, I tried to talk to Susan, asking if she could be a bit more considerate of the team's feelings, but she wouldn't listen at all. In the end, her oppressive attitude didn't improve, and employees left one after another. Within a few months, almost none of the original team was left, and effectively, Susan took control of the place. However, Tom, who had been working with me since I took over Reed's Inn from the previous generation, stayed, despite disliking Susan. Trusting me, he said.
I'll stick with you, Michael, until you decide to leave this place.
He's only 28 years old, a young talent, but has been working in the hotel industry since his teens. Since coming to Reed's Inn, he had been supporting me as my right-hand man in every way. However, Susan saw him as a rebel and cut him off from special tasks. I had entrusted Tom with all the beverage procurement and inventory management, but now he can't even enter the beverage warehouse without permission. I felt terrible for Tom. He's a talented young man. He could leave and work at another inn. With these thoughts, I, a powerless manager, continued to offer our guests heartfelt hospitality.
But even that didn't get through to Susan. All our guests at Reed's Inn seemed to be just old folks.
We need to attract younger customers if we want to survive in this industry, she said, without any experience in management. While it's understandable for an inn to be somewhat mindful of its clientele for business reasons, I believe selecting guests goes against the spirit of hospitality. Shouldn't our role be to make every effort to please both past and future guests?
And then my worst fears were realized.
It happened while I was away at a local resort and spa association meeting. A longtime customer of our inn, Mr. Johnson, had called to make a reservation only for Susan, our manager, to unilaterally cancel it. For the record, that date had been reserved for Mr. Johnson well in advance. Every year he books the same date to celebrate his wife's birthday, but this year it had been on hold due to renovation work. Having successfully reopened, Mr. Johnson called, hoping to visit. Susan canceled without consulting me. But the real issue isn't about the lack of consultation. It's about making Mr. Johnson feel unwelcome. Susan reportedly refused, sternly claiming another guest had already booked.
I couldn't stay silent.
That date was tentatively held for Mr. Johnson. I had informed you about this, and it was even noted on the schedule. Why did you accept another reservation without any discussion? She scoffed. A tentative hold? I don't care about some verbal promise to a regular or whatever. The guests I booked are younger and more profitable. They'll order much more alcohol than an old couple.
I confronted Susan, unable to tolerate her arrogance.
Who do you think you are deciding who's worthy to be our guest? Some kid who doesn't even know the ABCs of service acting all high and mighty.
By the time Tom tried to intervene, it was too late.
The frightened looks from the staff were all directed at me. Startled, I looked ahead to find Susan had apparently collapsed from my outburst, sitting on the ground with a terrified expression, shaking with fear. Eventually, with witnesses' testimonies, this incident reached the ears of the CEO, and I was relieved of my managerial duties. Hearing about my decision to leave the workplace early, Tom decided to resign voluntarily on the same day.
I believe you were right, Michael. That woman will surely face karma someday.
All I could do was give a bitter smile at Tom's words. Regardless of what Susan was like, the fact that I couldn't stay on the job was due to my own shortcomings. There might have been a better way to handle things, but I lacked the skill and patience to do so. That's all there was to it. I grew up watching my father's back, the soul of the Reed's Inn. Surrounded by new-style inns and hotels, the Reed's Inn stood as a bastion of tradition. Our guests chose us because of the trust and favor they had in the word heritage, and my father, Bob.
And they cared for me as well.
Growing up, there was no doubt in my mind that I would take over the family inn. But that doesn't mean I've always been straight-laced and serious. Despite how I may appear, I got into some mischief as a student and caused trouble for those around me. Being the only son of a traditional inn felt suffocating at times, but that was just youthful folly. As I matured, my rebellious feelings faded, and I started to take life more seriously, all thanks to the kindness of those around me. I was surrounded by earnest adults, my dad, the staff at the inn, and even the guests, who were incredible people working hard to build their companies or serving their country. I felt I couldn't let myself be outdone and worked hard at the inn. Then, 8 years ago, when my father suffered a stroke and fell ill, I took over the management. Initially, I pushed myself, thinking it was only until my father recovered, but unfortunately, he never did. The sadness of it all was a shock, but there was no time for sorrow. Alongside my mother, the landlady, I managed to keep the inn running, even though I was clueless at first. However, with the support of my mother and the staff, I gained confidence and worked even harder to provide better hospitality. Becoming the manager of the inn, I had a resolution in my heart, not just to reform our inn, but the entire resort area. The number of visitors to the resort areas was declining year by year. No matter how much our inn strived, without the revitalization of the town itself, there was no future. To achieve this, I believed it was necessary to build more trust among the staff of the surrounding inns and hotels, so I organized meetings where staff from both long-established and newly entered lodgings could interact, and I created tools for exchanging information. I discarded the notion of business rivals, thinking that if the entire resort area united as a new community, it would rejuvenate the whole area. For example, in times of trouble, such as when a facility experienced a problem, we could immediately refer guests to another lodging. The same went for when extra hands were needed. Job openings at Reed's Inn were shared with other inns that were short-staffed, and vice versa. We transformed the entire resort area into a place that welcomed both guests and workers alike. Thanks to these efforts, the resort town itself became more vibrant, leading to an increase in younger guests and families that had been rare before. This reform of the resort town attracted media attention, and we frequently received interviewer requests. Eventually, a documentary film was produced, which helped attract a younger generation interested in working in the resort town. Behind the restoration of the long-established Reed's Inn, there were concerns about falling under the umbrella of the Greater New York Hotel Group. It likely stemmed from the fear within about being overtaken and transformed into something completely different. However, I trusted the CEO of the Greater New York Hotel Group. That's because he was an old friend of my dad's and held my father, the manager of Reed's, in high regard. The fact that he covered all construction costs and left me with the rights to manage the inn was due to our relationship, but it seems his daughter didn't get his intentions at all. No, in the end, it was my own lack of strength in conveying my thoughts. I feel terrible for the employees who supported the era of Reed's Inn with me. From what I hear, most of those who left earlier are now working at the resort and spa facilities within this area. Being former employees of Reed's Inn apparently made it easy for them to find new jobs. And frankly, I myself have been approached by well-known inns. Luckily, someone told me they needed my skills. Of course, my right-hand man Tom was planning to join me at the same inn. Despite how things turned out, I had no regrets in my heart. The traditional Reed's Inn might have disappeared on my watch, but I'm still here. All I need to do is make a fresh start with my trusted friends. And on the last day working at Greater Ocean Resort, I felt not frustration, but rather a sense of relief. Susan always treated us coldly, but I don't mind anymore. Well, I've been relieved of my duties as manager, so technically she's the head of the inn now. Today's your last day, huh? Good job. I heard you got hired at the marina. It's cheaper and more basic than here, right? Perfect for someone as incompetent as you guys, she said with a smile. Susan taunted and Tom retorted, "You're not fit to be a manager, not someone like you. But no matter how much it changes, this place will always be Reed's Inn to us and our guests. Don't you dare ruin it." For someone who didn't even go to college, you sure talk big. And I heard you don't even have a family, abandoned by your parents and raised in an orphanage, she said with a frown. Tom just grimaced at those words, probably reminded of his tough past. The truth is, Tom lost his parents early and grew up facing many hardships. I haven't heard the details, but I was told no adult around him offered a helping hand. That's why he came to this industry, where he could work and live on his own. Despite his frustration, Tom chose not to retort any further to Susan. I kept quiet, understanding his feelings. Then Susan turned her scornful laughter and harsh words toward me.
Finally, the useless old man is gone.
I wanted to spend at least the last day laughing, but feeling indebted to her, I responded to her arrogant behavior with silence.
Then from behind us, a voice said, "This is just terrible."
Surprised, Tom and I turned around to find Mr. Johnson and his wife standing at the entrance. That's right, today was the birthday of Mr. Johnson's wife. Normally we would have welcomed him at Reed's Inn, but this time we had refused.
"Mr. Johnson, what brings you here?"
I blurted out without thinking.
Then Susan looked at me and said, "Mr. Johnson, but I'm sure we declined his reservation."
Glancing over, I saw the employee holding Mr. Johnson's luggage was shaking. But it wasn't just him. All the staff where Mr. Johnson stood were at attention, trembling. Mr. Johnson, unfazed, took off his shoes and strode into the inn. At that moment, even Susan turned pale and was speechless, frozen in place. Well, that might be understandable. After all, Mr. Johnson once served as the President of the United States. Anyone would recognize him, and it wouldn't be surprising to be overwhelmed by his formidable aura upon meeting him.
Even I was intimidated when I first met him.
But despite his appearance, he turned out to be a kind and compassionate man. Someone who has been a head of state obviously has a broad and deep perspective. However, today Mr. Johnson seemed a bit angry, looking around the building with a frown and saying,
"What a terrible state this is. There's no sense of history or charm left, and I haven't seen a single familiar face since I got here. I can't believe our Reed's Inn has come to this." Caught off guard by his sudden outburst, all the employees looked down. "No way! Mr. Johnson, you can't be serious."
Susan was just gasping for breath.
Then Mr. Johnson noticed me and Tom, his face breaking into a smile.
There you are. I heard through the grapevine you were fired, so I had to come see for myself. But here you are. And where's the landlady?"
I responded solemnly to Mr. Johnson, who approached me with a look of joy.
"No, Mr. Johnson, the firing is true. She has retired. She was of age. In fact, today is my last day as well. It's an honor to meet you one last time."
Hearing this, Mr. Johnson sighed deeply.
"This is Reed's Inn, a tradition that's been continued since the founder's time. To think that you and the traditions that your father and the landlady have upheld are being cast aside, I can hardly believe it."
"I believe it's just the times deciding for us now. It's called Greater Ocean Resort, and she's the new manager. She told us our way of thinking is outdated."
I took this opportunity to turn the conversation to Susan. Mr. Johnson then turned his gaze to her.
Susan was as still as if she'd turned to stone. Where had her usual vigor vanished?
"You're the CEO's daughter, aren't you? Quite the eloquent speaker for someone so young to challenge a tradition that has lasted 80 years. Could you explain to this old man what exactly you find so outdated about Reed's Inn?" Susan, sweating profusely across her forehead and all over her face, was moving her mouth as if speaking, but no sound was coming out, making it completely unclear what she was trying to say.
In response, Mr. Johnson continued his speech.
"Come to think of it, you were the one who took our reservation call the other day, weren't you? No matter what I said, you insisted that there were no available slots that day. Even if there had been some mistake, the right thing to do would have been to talk honestly and propose an alternative." Cornered by Mr. Johnson, Susan became utterly disheartened. Unable to utter a sound, she could only whisper in a barely audible voice, "I'm terribly sorry," and collapsed on the spot.
Just then the office phone started ringing.
After 2, 3, 4 rings, with everyone still in shock and no one moving to answer it, Tom ran to pick it up.
"It's the CEO of the Greater New York calling for you," Tom called out to me.
Hearing this, Mr. Johnson said, "Maybe it's a call to bring you back. Reed's Inn must absolutely need you, right? That should be obvious to anyone."
Saying this, Mr. Johnson looked at me and smiled.
According to the CEO, Mr. Johnson, who had heard rumors that I was about to be fired, had contacted the headquarters of the Greater New York Hotel Group. Susan had not told the CEO about arbitrarily canceling Mr. Johnson's reservation and had only reported that she was threatened when she tried to discuss it. So this was the first time he learned the truth. It seems I was under a misunderstanding. Moreover, I had not given Susan any managerial authority. She was supposed to be learning as a beginner. I never imagined she would act so tyrannically. I am truly sorry. The CEO apologized to me. No, I should have also properly conveyed our beliefs to Susan. She just graduated from college and must have known nothing. She wasn't the one we should have been fighting against. I reflected on everything up to now. Susan wasn't the type of person who lacked motivation. She had her own ideals. But I never discussed those ideals with her. If I had clearly expressed my opinion, she might not have unilaterally canceled Mr. Johnson's reservation. While I was on the phone with the CEO, Mr. Johnson approached. "Could you transfer that call to me?" I said sure and handed the phone to him. You were about to do something outrageous. It's not just me who trusts Michael's character. If he leaves this in, all our regular customers will likely stop coming. As I listened to Mr. Johnson's words beside me, I felt a warmth in my heart. Tom came over to me with a happy expression on his face and said, aligning with the former nation's top, "That's our Michael for you. I'll follow you wherever you go." We exchanged glances and left. In the end, despite being persuaded by the CEO, we decided to stay at Greater Ocean Resort. Most of the decision-making regarding the inn was entrusted to me as the manager, and Tom was to continue working as my right-hand man as before. However, the employees of Reed's Inn, including the landlady who had quit before, would not return. Although some said they would come back if Susan left, I wanted her to stay too. No, I thought Susan should be here. As the CEO's only daughter, she must eventually become a crucial figure within the Greater New York Hotel Group. For those of us under their umbrella, Susan's growth is absolutely desirable. Therefore, I want to work with her, pooling our strengths. Since then, she seemed to have changed her mind a bit, welcoming guests and serving coffee herself, starting to entertain. Her demeanor and attitude changed rapidly, and she no longer showed any attitude of looking down on people as she did at first. Behind the scenes, she often argues and has petty squabbles with Tom, but I turn a blind eye to it, pretending that they are good friends to the point of fighting. 3 years later, my mother passed away. Many customers who had been kind to my mother, the landlady of Reed's Inn, gathered at the funeral, which filled me with genuine gratitude. It was the catalyst for me to completely let go of Reed's Inn. From now on, I want to work wholeheartedly to elevate our new style in Greater Ocean Resort. So I'm going to push this entire resort, in this area where we've lived through it all, to become the world's #1 hospitality town, both now and in the future. You're incredibly inept. Which would you rather have, a promotion or a termination? Amy Miller, the department head, is always bossing me around in the administrative department where I work. I had to fill in for Kyle Green, a new hire, when he made a mistake one day. However, I was fired as a result of standing up for him. Oh, look who's back, the useless one. I joined Sparkle Design, our rival company, after I was sacked. I put in a lot of work, and the next year we were able to buy my old business, which allowed me to see Amy again. She made a patronizing comment as soon as we were together again, assuming I had gone back to the company. But shortly after, Mike Wilson, our ferocious-looking chairman, showed up. I'm 50 years old, and my name is John Taylor. In New York, I work at a design firm. I joined this company at the age of 30 because I was interested in the packaging products they handled. I was put in the less glamorous administrative department, even though I had planned to join the coveted design planning department. I applied for a transfer several times, but each time I was turned down, and now here I am. I kept working hard until my bosses acknowledged my ability because I couldn't give up. However, a major barrier then stood in my way. John, how long does it take to change the copier ink? I'm sorry, Amy. A child could manage such a basic task. Perhaps you ought to return to primary school. If that's the case, why don't you do it?
I replaced the empty ink cartridge softly without complaining. Then you do it, I said. You move so slowly. Clean the bathroom next. You bit of garbage. Hurry up. Yes, ma'am. Amy Miller was the one who continued to issue commands one after another. She oversaw all of the company's designers as the chief of the design planning division. She is 53 years old, usually expects quick answers, and as a result, her environment is constantly busy. She routinely hurls insults and is highly tough with employees who work slowly. She especially orders me around every day in the administrative department. Even though I was offended by her taunts, I hoped that if I could win her favor, I might be able to work in the area I respected. I put up with her oppressive actions with this glimmer of optimism. Amy, I've finished cleaning the restroom, so I'll be leaving now. She was polishing her nails at her workstation when I informed her that I had finished the cleaning task assigned to me. The administrative department has it easy, doesn't it? You get paid for doing tasks even a kid could do. Ha! I awkwardly left in response to her sarcastic comments. She took pride in being the head of the prestigious department and tended to look down on other departments. As a result, she wasn't well liked by some of the employees, including myself. The administrative department may not directly contribute to the company's profits, but it plays an essential role in improving the workplace environment. Whenever I completed a task, other employees would often thank me for my meticulous work. Feeling pleased to be of help, I inadvertently angered Amy. The administrative staff shouldn't get too full of themselves. You should be saying thank you for employing an incompetent person like me. I'm sorry. Whenever I received even a slight compliment, Amy would become displeased and hurl insults. Don't slack off with the menial tasks. Apologizing immediately to avoid involving other employees had become routine for me. One day, a new 25-year-old employee joined the administrative department. His name was Kyle Green. I was assigned as his mentor, showing him around and teaching him about office supplies and job responsibilities. If there's any trouble, report it immediately. I'll handle it. Understood. I'm looking forward to working with you. His energetic response made me smile. I was happy to have a young colleague again. But Kyle soon made a mistake. He came to me looking frantic, explaining that he had accidentally shredded important documents meant for a planning meeting. I'm so sorry. I found them in the use files and assumed... Mistakes happen to everyone. I'll apologize to Amy for you. I encouraged him and went to explain the situation to Amy. Can't you even train new employees properly? I braced myself for her scolding, but instead Amy smirked. You're so incompetent. Which do you prefer, getting fired or getting demoted? She wanted to hold me responsible, giving me two options. Watching my sincere apology, she leaned back in her chair, amused. Her condescending attitude annoyed me. I'll leave it to your judgment, Amy. Is that so? Then I'll report your worst performance to HR. If I got fired, Kyle wouldn't face any repercussions. My dream of joining the design planning department ended here, but I couldn't crush the spirit of a young talent. Despite Kyle's repeated attempts to stop me, I left the company telling him to keep working hard for both of us. A month later, after getting fired, I joined the rival company Sparkle Design. The following year, Sparkle Design acquired my previous company due to their financial troubles. With the merger, the previous company's president and executives were dissolved. Most of the remaining employees ended up joining Sparkle Design. Among the employees was Amy. And when we reunited, she patted me on the shoulder. Oh, look who's back, the useless one. I hadn't told her where I had transferred to, so when she saw me, she mistakenly thought I had returned to the old company. Just as she started to confront me, an elderly man grabbed her arm and glared at her fiercely. Hey! Don't touch me, you perverted old man. Hearing her insult, I couldn't help but hold my head in my hands. What are you saying to the chairman? Huh? He was Mike Wilson,
the former president and honorary chairman of Sparkle Design.
This old man is the chairman? You can't just insult people. Apologize right now.
Despite my efforts, Amy didn't understand the situation and continued to make inappropriate remarks.
Listen, old man. Let go of my hand. It's hurting. If you touch me anymore, I'll call the police.
My apologies, the chairman said, releasing her but continuing to glare. You may not know me since the merger just happened, but it's common sense to know the rival company's leader, don't you think? At that moment, the current president, Tom, appeared from the elevator, shouting and running towards us.
Mike? So it's really...
Seeing the president, Amy started trembling and looked at the chairman in fear, finally understanding. Realizing he knew her name, she began to tremble. Having made such grave mistakes with the chairman, she was now under scrutiny.
Amy is done for, I secretly smirked to myself.
My deepest apologies. I had no idea you were the chairman, Mike. How incredibly rude of me. She immediately apologized profusely. She had just called the top executive of the company an old man. Forgiveness wouldn't come easily.
I've heard you were once the head of the design planning department, Amy.
Yes, I was also the coordinator for the designers. While she fidgeted nervously, the chairman continued to speak calmly. And after the merger, you were demoted from department head based on your performance evaluation. Is that correct? With the merger into Sparkle Design, the HR department conducted a review of evaluations. Amy was no exception and had her abilities as a manager scrutinized. She grimaced and glanced at me, clearly not wanting me to hear this. She seemed unwilling to answer. Not wanting me to hear, the chairman pressed her for a clear answer.
Answer me directly.
I was deemed incompetent and demoted from department head to team leader. Amy had been judged unfit for her previous role and was demoted to a team leader position. Furthermore, she was reassigned from the design department to the sales department, which she greatly resented.
I learned this for the first time and smirked. So that makes you a former department head? Shut up. I don't need to be mocked by you.
Her face turned red with embarrassment as she shouted, but then the chairman scolded her again.
Don't you dare speak to your superior like that. Wait, superior? You mean John?
Amy looked between me and the chairman, her mouth agape. I told her my current position. I am the chief officer of the product design planning department and an executive director.
Huh? Hearing my title, Amy looked confused.
I'm now in a slightly higher position than a department head, both leading the design department and involved in management. The chairman and the president both nodded in agreement.
John is in a crucial role for our company. He's a very capable man.
My work had earned the chairman's approval, and I was fully trusted by both him and the president. Hearing about my competence, Amy started laughing. John? Competent? You must be joking. He was useless even in the admin department.
But the chairman didn't believe her at all.
John successfully handled a major project soon after joining us and greatly improved our operational efficiency. Having handled various administrative tasks as part of the support staff, I developed strong administrative skills and multitasking abilities. This allowed me to become an immediate asset to the team, earning praise as a competent addition right from the start. Additionally, the admin role had honed my communication skills, allowing me to adapt quickly to the new workplace. Sparkle Design valued employee development and immediately allowed my transfer to the design department when I expressed my interest. Compared to my previous job, this company respected employee aspirations and provided a more open environment, making it a very comfortable place to work. I was annoyed when Amy asked if I preferred getting fired or demoted, but in the end, it led me to my dream job, so I consider myself lucky. Deliberately displaying my happiness, I saw Amy clench her teeth in frustration. With the merger, the dynamic between Amy and me drastically shifted. Who could have predicted that the person who would always call me incompetent would one day find themselves working under me?
Here I am, demoted after the company was absorbed. She glared at me resentfully. By the way, you haven't apologized yet, have you? For the insults and the disrespect, Amy?
Under the piercing gaze of the chairman and myself, she broke into a cold sweat and stepped back. After all the things she had said to me, it was only fair to return the favor.
I distinctly heard you call him useless, Amy, while patting him on the shoulder, said the chairman. With the chairman, the most powerful witness present, Amy couldn't make any excuses. I didn't mean it seriously. It was just a figure of speech.
Nevertheless, she tried to make excuses to evade responsibility.
I was just so happy to see you again that I patted you on the shoulder too hard.
Despite her defiant attitude, the pressure from us forced her to reluctantly apologize.
I'm deeply sorry for my disrespectful behavior.
Upon closer inspection, I noticed a vein pulsing at her temple as she trembled. She apologized, but it was clear she wasn't genuinely remorseful.
That's enough. Just work hard to regain our trust from now on.
A significant amount of time had passed since I arrived at the office. To avoid keeping the chairman and president any longer, I decided to conclude the meeting for now.
Thank you for your time, Mike. I thanked Mike sincerely.
John, you are a valuable employee to us. If you ever need help, don't hesitate to ask, the chairman said with a smile as he prepared to leave with the president.
Before leaving, he turned back and glared at Amy.
I've memorized your face and name. If you ever harm the company again, you'll be out immediately.
Yes. Amy trembled like a frog under the gaze of a snake. Once the chairman and president were out of sight, she quickly ran away. Phew.
Hopefully she'll reflect on her actions and become a decent employee.
Once I was alone, I quickly headed to the design department floor.
Despite this tense reunion with an old adversary, I was finally working in my dream job. I decided to focus on my work and not dwell on the past. However, just as I thought that, an issue arose within the company, and I unwillingly got involved. 2 weeks after the merger, things started to change around me.
John, are you tired? Would you like some coffee?
As I worked at my desk, Amy suddenly appeared with a cup of coffee. I never expected to receive coffee from my former boss, so I couldn't help but be suspicious.
Suspicious? What are you planning?
I looked at her skeptically, but she maintained her smile and charm.
Oh, nothing like that. I've decided to reflect on my actions and dedicate myself to the company. I see.
The former Amy used to look down on incompetent employees and was overly proud of her own work. But now she seemed to have transformed into a kind woman who cared about me. Although she claimed to have changed, I couldn't shake my doubts. She had mistreated me for so long, and now she was bringing me coffee like a completely different person.
You can go back to your own work now. Of course. Excuse me.
With a sugary tone, she left with a light step. After that, she continued to hover around me, eagerly taking on various menial tasks herself.
I can handle copying these documents. I'll staple them for you too, John.
Her cheerful willingness felt eerie, and I started to wonder if she truly had changed. Observing her secretly, I saw her interacting well with other employees without any conflicts. I initially thought she was just trying to curry favor for a promotion, but it seemed I had been overly cautious. If I could forgive her, we might be able to build a good working relationship. I considered having a conversation with Amy to suggest a truce.
The next day, a sales department employee rushed to report to me. Why are you in such a hurry? A customer complaint.
Last week, we had a major project with a large advertising company. Despite the collaboration between the design and sales departments, it was discovered that the delivered materials were incorrect. The client complained, requesting that the designs be redone according to their specifications. This resulted in a significant delay in delivery, angering the client.
Have you investigated the cause of the mistake? I was shocked by the employee's response.
Amy was also involved in the major project. When the client communicated the design changes, she handled the correspondence. However, she forgot to share the information with the other employees, leading to the current situation. In short, the complaint was caused by her lack of communication.
Hearing her name gave me a headache. I'll handle the apology to the client. Where is Amy now?
I needed to confirm if her oversight was intentional or accidental. The employee, avoiding eye contact, told me that she had left early due to feeling unwell.
She left early in an emergency like this?
In the midst of the emergency, Amy had the audacity to leave early. Before the employee came to me, Amy had already left the office. As I stood there in disbelief, the client called and I repeatedly apologized. Surprisingly, the client was not angry and even expressed a desire to continue working with us.
What's going on? I thought the client would be furious.
As the employee and I looked at each other in confusion, another person approached us. It turned out that this individual had effectively handled the situation, receiving positive feedback from the client. Relieved by the swift resolution, I recognized the person and exclaimed, "Oh." Though the issue with the client was resolved, the matter with Amy was not over. Her negligence caused a problem, and then she ran away.
I was furious. Amy won't get away with this.
I headed to her house and rang the doorbell. Inside, I heard her voice.
Yes? Who is it? It's John.
Realizing it was me, she hesitantly opened the door.
How are you feeling?
When I looked at her with concern, she gave a conspicuous cough. Dressed in pajamas and wearing a mask, she looked every bit the part of a sick person.
I'm sorry. I developed a fever from exhaustion.
Is that so? The project was completed successfully. The client gave us high marks, and everything is settled.
She sighed in genuine relief upon hearing my report.
Thank goodness. I'm truly sorry. I'll make sure to apologize to everyone once I recover. Thank you for your hard work too, John.
Amy responded happily to my kind words. I'll do my best to be of help again once I'm better. She made a triumphant pose, and I smiled. Oh, there's no need for that. You're fired. What? Amy stared at me in shock. I'm here to report that everything is resolved and to give you this.
I took out a document from my bag and handed it to her. It was a notice of termination signed by the president.
Why am I being fired? As she trembled, I told her the truth. After you left, Kyle handled the situation. Kyle?
The person who handled the project's trouble was Kyle, my former subordinate. After the merger, he was assigned to the sales department and grew into a competent employee. Utilizing the interpersonal and computer skills he had learned in the admin department, he successfully negotiated with the client. He quickly revised the design with the help of other employees and successfully delivered the final product. Thanks to Kyle's client interactions, the quality of the delivery improved, satisfying the client. He not only resolved the issue, but also became a hero in the client's eyes. I was pleased to see him again. Amy looked stunned and speechless. How does it feel to have your mess cleaned up by a former subordinate? I asked harshly, and she grimaced. I'll thank Kyle tomorrow, but more importantly, can you tell me why I'm being fired? The client contacted us, didn't they? If you had properly communicated with the team, the delivery wouldn't have been delayed. I just forgot. She averted her eyes and coughed again. After taking the call, I did take notes, but I lost them. I thought it wouldn't be helpful to share vague details, so I was waiting for the client to call back. I sternly reprimanded her for this poor judgment. You should have followed up. You have more experience than I do, so what were you thinking? Please don't yell. The neighbors might hear. She looked around anxiously after being yelled at. Seeing her lack of remorse, my anger flared.
Of course I reported this to Tom and Mike. They were very disappointed in you.
What? Mentioning the chairman's name made her turn pale. Apparently, she disliked the chairman because she had given him a terrible impression.
When we met again, I was instructed to deliver your termination notice. As of today, you're fired. No way.
Abandoned by even the higher-ups, Amy collapsed in despair. She must have finally realized the gravity of her actions, so I decided to leave her there. However, she called out to me as I turned to leave.
Wait. What is it?
You can't fire me for such a small mistake. I'll sue the company for wrongful termination.
She grabbed my arm, refusing to let me go. If the president gets sued, it will tarnish the company's reputation, don't you think? What do you want? Amy smirked wickedly. As compensation for wrongful termination, I want $50,000. The high demand shocked me. And also, as an apology, I want to swap positions with you. What? I haven't done anything wrong.
Not only was she asking for compensation, but she also wanted my job. Her audacity disgusted me. I was about to reject her outrageous demands when she cut me off.
You humiliated me in front of Mike. After all the help I've given you, this is how you repay me. Me? Help? All I remember is you bossing me around.
At my previous company, I contributed to improving operational efficiency as part of the administrative department. However, Amy saw me as a convenient slave, pushing various menial tasks onto me, cleaning the toilets, daily office cleaning, preparing materials, and unpaid overtime with just a few examples. In extreme cases, she even asked me to give her a morning call before coming to work. I couldn't forgive her for shifting the blame onto me while ignoring her own actions. To make her understand that bad deeds come back to bite you, I decided to be firm.
All right. I guess I need to properly explain the reasons for your wrongful termination.
If you have a legitimate reason, go ahead and say it. Amy responded defiantly and confronted me with a strong attitude. Until now, I had kept my voice calm, but it was time to drop any kindness. You claim to have left early due to feeling unwell, but that was a lie, wasn't it? When confronted, she seemed startled, her eyes widening as she stared at me. However, she quickly looked away, trying to maintain her composure.
It's true. I was exhausted from the chaos of the merger. You still had energy to go out and have fun, though.
Suddenly, sweat poured down her forehead and her body stiffened. With a trembling voice, she managed to speak.
What are you talking about?
You should be careful about what you post on social media. You never know who's watching. I pulled out my phone, opened a specific social media account, and showed it to her.
This account belongs to you, doesn't it?
The profile name was Amy, and the photos featured a woman who looked exactly like her. It was undoubtedly her account. Although she trembled, she remained stubborn.
I don't know. It's just someone who looks like me.
But look at this post from then. The date matches our company trip, and there are group photos of the employees. I found a familiar group photo from past posts and confronted her about it, causing Amy to turn pale. In fact, Kyle was the one who had shown me the account. Many employees at the company use social media, and they had stumbled upon it by chance. Amy had been using social media for years, sharing photos of office lunches and night views, likely taken from the company. It's problematic to capture and expose internal company scenes to the outside. Since there were photos of the company and hers, she had no choice but to admit it was her account.
I expected her to apologize, but she got defensive instead. I've been careful with personal information. I always blur other people's faces. That's true, but that's not the point. Huh? I showed her the latest post.
This photo was posted today, wasn't it? This proves you lied about being sick.
Whoa. The post from today included a comment along with a picture of Amy at a pub. Taking a day off work to drink beer is the best. Afternoon is for a relaxing day trip. She had gone to a pub right after leaving work while her colleagues were dealing with the trouble. This irresponsible behavior is nothing short of dereliction of duty. Even she couldn't find an excuse, groaning in distress. What do you have to say about drinking beer while Kyle and others were cleaning up your mess? I felt guilty. That's why I plan to apologize to everyone later. This woman clearly hadn't reflected on her actions. After all, I've never heard Amy say thank you. Those who knew her from before the merger would immediately recognize any apology as insincere. You don't need to come to the company anymore since you're fired, so it's too late to apologize. Please reconsider the termination. You'll be in trouble without me. Her words made me freeze. What? Huh? Amy looked at me, confused. Do you really think you're indispensable to the company? I may have been demoted to team leader, but I'm a competent woman. Her arrogance made me laugh. Wow. Former department head Amy, you sure are delusional. Feeling mocked, she turned red and yelled. You were my subordinate, so don't get cocky just because you got promoted. The one getting cocky is you. It's quite bold to defy an executive like me. I puffed out my chest, showing off our hierarchical difference, and she bit her lip in frustration. The most effective way to silence someone arrogant is to show them you're in a higher position. Those who are drunk on power cannot defy it. Amy, who was demoted to team leader after catching the chairman's attention, should understand this better than anyone. Resigned, she hung her head and muttered an apology. I'm sorry. So you finally admit your mistakes? She nodded slowly. Yes. After being demoted, I might have become a bit reckless. She admitted to forgetting to share the client's contact, but she left early during the crisis just to trouble the staff. I panicked when the call came during lunch. There was no one around, and I thought it was rude of the client to call at that time. I initially thought she was being humble, but her attempt to blame the client made me furious. Insulting the client is unacceptable. I'm sorry. I'll apologize directly to the client. Please forgive me. She apologized and begged me to revoke her termination, but I didn't have that power. I've already handled the apology, so your role is unnecessary. Besides, no one at the company will support you anymore. Huh? I delivered the harsh truth. Most employees use social media and everyone knows about your account, including Tom and Mike. In other words, her slacking off and lying about her illness were exposed to all the employees. She turned pale, realizing her deceit and laziness were exposed. Everyone was outraged by your laziness. If you returned, you'd be bombarded with hostility. The chairman even called you a disgrace to the company. A disgrace. With her social media account exposed to everyone in the company, Amy's credibility plummeted. Even if her termination were revoked and she returned, she would forever be ostracized by her colleagues, hated by both her superiors and subordinates, and even the president. She would have no chance of advancing in her career. Overwhelmed, she began to cry. What am I supposed to do now? I can't survive being fired. You will have to find another job and work diligently. There are plenty of opportunities for someone in their 40s. However, if asked about the reason for her termination during interviews, she would struggle to provide an answer. If it came to light that she had caused various issues, finding a new job would be difficult. Well, I'm leaving now. With my task completed, I turned to leave, intending to report back to the president. But Amy clung to my legs, crying. Please convince everyone to forgive me. Tell them I've reflected on my actions. Of course not. I dislike you too. I shook her off my leg roughly.
Realizing her future was uncertain, she tried to curry favor with me.
I'll be your subordinate forever. Just please let me stay at the company. The company doesn't employ incompetent people. You of all people should understand that. With that, I left without looking back. Back at the office, I reported to the president and the chairman. Amy seems remorseful. Are you sure we should fire her?
Her insults to her superiors, lack of cooperation, and abandonment of duty leave no other option but termination. The chairman condemned her actions, showing no intention of forgiving her. Amy called repeatedly, begging for forgiveness.
If you keep this up, I'll report it as harassment to the police.
When I told her that, she backed down easily. Her belongings were sent to her home, and her card and contact details were deleted. This erased any trace of her from the company. After being fired, she started going to the employment office to look for a job. However, given that her termination was her own fault, she faced continuous rejections. Growing desperate as her savings dwindled and her future became uncertain, she started working as an influencer. She reviewed and promoted restaurants, but ended up in a major controversy with a restaurant owner, leading to a massive backlash. As a result, her identity and address were exposed, leading to daily harassment. Living in fear of being chased by strangers, she would now have to live a life filled with anxiety. She would have to pay for all the time she insulted me and my subordinates. Meanwhile, the company, without Amy, was peaceful, without any troubles. We successfully collaborated on major projects, earning praise from our clients. Kyle, who had grown significantly since his rookie days, recently won an award in an internal competition. His achievements led to a promotion to manager, making his future even more promising. For me, I find joy in contributing to the design work while being part of the company's management. As an executive, I am committed to working hard to become a good leader for my employees.